Hello, Eridos here again, and it's time to finally finish off my Digivolving reviews. Today, we are looking at something that was actually just released this year. It is the Gatomon to Angewomon. Yeah, Gatomon, or as she's also known in some translations, Tailmon, is nicely painted, nicely sculpted from the front. Looks exactly like the character. That is until you look at the back. And as you can see, arms are just there. And the Angewomon arms are clearly visible. You can also see a little bit of the Angewomon inside the shell. And yes, she is a shell former. Anyone who's aware of Beast Wars knows what the term shell former means, especially if they've ever gotten Beast Wars Neo stuff. Anyway, let's just look at her in Gatomon mode. And first thing, she has little hinges in her paws, but as you can see, it just exposes the Angewomon hands. A little bit of articulation there, but that's more because of the joints that they're attached to. Joints in the ears, but again, that's for transformation. Her feet, these are said to be the articulation for the feet, which would be a nice range if not for one thing, and that's this big chunk right here, which is basically just the rest of the foot there. As for the tail, hinge there, ball joint at the tip. So yeah, nicely articulated tail, but the rest is, well, a little finicky. And I also need to mention the tip of the tail here. This gold ring, that's actual die-cast metal. So yeah. Oh, sorry for bumping the table there, but let's get her transformed. So first things first, we are bending the ears down, folding out these parts right here. Pop this panel, which is on a very tight hinge. Not sure if that's just mine. Pull the face forward. As you can see, there's a little hinge that pulls it forward. Fold it back. We also fold this panel back, like so. And push that all back, and that reveals the Angewomon torso. We fold the arms back, and carefully, it says in the instructions to be very careful with this assembly. Carefully separate it because there are there's little tabs in the torso. Sorry, my backdrop was starting to fall there. And we just separate them out like so. And also being mindful of these two pegs that go into those two holes as we unfold it. And excuse me here. Got to be very careful. And we fold the feet up just to make it a little flush. And here's where things are going to get a little complicated, because it is technically possible to do this without taking it off, but unfortunately it's just easier to take the whole shell off to fold out her feet. Like so. We pivot her feet back forward, and as for back here, we just twist these out a little to get them more splayed out. We take her arms, carefully hinge them forward like so. When we're at the halfway point here, we twist this around. It's a very tight ball joint, and we got the ribbon right there, and there's a little hinge right here so we can pivot that to where we need it to go. Same on the other side. Easy. Gotta be very careful. Make sure to pivot that to where we need it to go. And finally, we take the shell and plug it right back onto her back. Sometimes it will be snug, sometimes it will be a little loose. It's kind of the problem with this, which I will explain a little later. And we splay out the wings like so, and hang on. There. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a firm push to get the wing pack in there. And there we have Angewomon fully transformed. And yeah, she is definitely an interesting figure transformed, but for the most part, all of the parts that make her Gatomon are just this faux wing pack. Oh, I almost forgot. I was supposed to fold the tail up into the body like so, just to get it out of the way. Now then, I've heard some people say that they would plan to actually glue this in place, but I'd really highly suggest against that because the instructions actually say the wing pack is supposed to be removable, because that port on their back where the wings plug into, that is also the port for if you want to use a display base on her. Yes, it is the exact same kind of port. Although I have to admit, despite those high heels, and I've had figures with high heels that just do not stand without a base, that entire backpack she has gives her a nice bit of stability, although if not plugged in all the way, I do think it's going to fall off. And of course, there is also a small little port. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a small little port under there too for a stand, although I think that's more really for the Gatomon mode. Anyway, before I get into articulation, let's get some size comparisons here. Here she is next to Mega Kabuterimon. She's a bit taller than him. Have to hold him up because he doesn't have a foot. Here she is next to Gaomon. About same height as Gaomon here, considering that he was re-released in the same line for Digimon Spirits. Here she is next to Sakuromon. Smaller than Sakuromon, but way better. Actually looks like the character. Let's compare her to some modern Transformers. Here she is next to a deluxe class Steelbane here. Bigger than a deluxe class. Here she is next to my evil Rodimus from the Rodimus Uchronus leader class. About the same height. Considering that she's kind of her own little figure, and oh wait, I forgot something. These little fins on the top of her head should be displayed out just a little like so. Let's get her next to a Figma here. My Figma Dark Magician girl, about same height, same proportions. And my Megami device figure. If it wasn't for the pose, she'd probably be about the same height too. And yeah, Megami device figures are really articulated, but they're kind of difficult to build. Anyway, now that we are done with the size comparison, I should also note helmet, breastplate, and the anklet on her wrist are also die-cast metal. Yeah, so this girl has a lot of metal in her. Now for articulation, as you saw, wings can be moved in just about any position you need to. Arms, a little bit of range in the shoulder, but slightly hindered because of the ribbon, as well as the elbow. Elbow doesn't really go that far. Wrist is on a bit of a ball joint, but not a whole lot of range because that ribbon gets in the way. Let's take the wing pack off. There is a joint there in the ribbon, and the ribbon has all the same articulation for transformation. Her head, nicely ranged, considering that her hair does get in the way for some poses. There are ball joints here, but they tend to pop off in certain positions. I think they're only supposed to be twisted, not articulated too much. Torso has a ball joint, much like any other high-end Japanese figure should. The hips go out about that far and that far back. I think if you just twist the joint a little, you might get a little bit more movement, but it just makes it look kind of weird from certain angles. Now for the knees, let me just get some of this stuff out of the way. Almost 180, because of course for transformation. And the ankles can go forward and back a little. And depending on how you, and have some twist to them, so you can get them in some pretty interesting poses. If not for the fact that some of it's a little hindered from the ribbons. I'm sure I could get some pretty good poses if I have an actual stand for her. Let me just get the wing pack back on there. But for the most part, Angewomon is a nice representation of the character. But the elephant in the room, she is a shell former. In fact, I could just take off the shell and, yeah, she can't really stand without it. And just fold all this back up. Fold the ears, fold the head, fold the body, and I'm going to be very careful pegging the chest pieces back together because it says to be careful on the instructions. I'm not gonna... Okay. Fold head back into place, and yeah, besides the hands, wing pack just becomes most of Gatomon's body. So yeah, this is a complete shell former. Hang on, let me just get Angelwomon's foot in a position where I think she'll be able to stand up on her own power. And there. Got her to stand on her own power. Yeah, as you can see, that whole wing pack just becomes Gatomon without hands. But in all honesty, there isn't really any other way they could have pulled this off. Especially if it wasn't for the ribbons, we could have gotten some pretty good articulation out of the figure. In fact, there is a small hinge right there on the bicep where it seems like you can rotate the ribbon just ever so slightly. But it also seems that it also for rotating the arm itself. So it does seem like they were trying to get some really good articulation, and if we can get into certain positions we can get that, but for the most part it does seem a little hindered in the arms. But for the price it's going for what you get, I say this is a pretty good figure, especially since this was created exclusively for Digimon Spirits. This was never released in the original line. So that is my review of the Digimon Digivolving Spirits, Angewomon, and Gatomon. And yeah, she just has a pretender shell for all intents and purposes. And I hope to see you again next review. Bye!